Armenians lived as a nation in Minor Asia for 8,500 years, a country that united the heritage of all of ancient populations of the region. The Hittites, the Urartu, the Luwians, the Hurrites, and the Hayasi-Azi and Proto-Armenians. A vast country, spreading from the Black Sea and Mediterranean to the Caspian Sea, destroyed. Armenians were kicked out of their own lands. Almost 2 million people forced on a death march. Most died, some survived in Syria, some in Lebanon, some people went to eastern Armenia, that was independent at the time, but it became a part of the USSR in 1921. Some were taken in by Kurdish families and grew up believing they were Kurds. Some were forced to convert to Islam. The question of how many Armenians are in Turkey today has been put back in the spotlight. What was so important about the release date? It apparently revealed unknown truths. Tens of thousands of people discovered they were full or half Armenian. So just how many Armenians are in Turkey today? It's believed the official number is between 200 and 400,000. But is that the real number? To find the answer, we have to find out what's really happened to them. Hrant Dink, a journalist and the editor-in-chief of newspaper Agos, was brutally killed in 2007 in Istanbul. He took a dangerous stance on issues for an Armenian in Turkey, criticizing the government over its denial of the Armenian genocide, and he demanded more rights for minorities in Turkey. For his views, he was killed by a Turkish nationalist, Ogun Samast. After his murder in 2014, 100,000 people marched across Turkey with the slogan, "We are all Hrant Dink. We are all Armenians." We found a local Armenian named Arman. Arman is doing a lot for the local Armenians and Armenians in Turkey in general. He helps them to learn their true identity, find their relatives, and basically give them a feeling they've not been forgotten.
Yes, Armen Galistyan.
I am Armen Galstyan from the villages of Mush and Simal. My grandfathers are from the villages of Mush and Simal. I was born in Mush. I live in Mush now. Thank goodness I am Armenian. There was no road to this monastery of Archalots. Last year I came here. It took me 3 hours. Then I appealed to this government 4 times, telling them to open the road. In March of 2019, the road was opened by the help of Armenians and me. The government knows me, and the others also know me. If something happens to me, I have a son. He will continue. I am not that kind of Armenian. Other Armenians will say that they are patriots. Are you patriots? What have you done to be a patriot? Have you done anything to place the Armenian graves under protection of UNESCO? No, you have not. What have you done for your community and church? Nothing. Patriotism is your history. It is your everything. Sometimes I get very angry with the Armenians if they sit at the table and say, "Oh, we can do this, we can do that." All that is said in vain. I was 9 years old when I found out I am Armenian. I was beaten by a Kurdish shepherd. His friend asked me who I was. The Kurdish shepherd said to his friend that I was Armenian. Then I went to my grandfather crying. That's how I found out that I am Armenian, and I am still fighting for everything. We are now in the courtyard of the Archalots Monastery. Who thought about opening the road? I have probably addressed the Turkish government 100 times to open the road to be able to drive on it. It will take 3 hours if you go on foot, and 10 minutes if you go by car. Let the sons of Armenians not forget what a monastery of Archalots was, what Serb Karapet Monastery was, the grave of Kurvag Chaush, what Sashka Duran was. I want them to know. Let the whole world know. Let the Armenian Sea know. The Armenian Sea is not for the sake of one thing. They think only for the sake of their own pocket. I could do as they do. If I withdraw now, this Turkish government will treat me like a king. If I die, thank goodness I have a son. He will think about what he will do.
Our journey began in Mush, a place that Armenians call a city of brave warriors. Now it's populated by Kurds. However, our local guide told us that it's not entirely true. Half of the population in Mush is ethnically Armenian, but they pretend to be Kurds, because otherwise no one will hire them. They have to open up their own businesses, which is no easy task to make successful. Local Armenians not only pretend to be Kurds, they speak Kurdish, they pray in mosques, and basically live like Kurds. Yet, as Arman told us, Armenians are now willing to speak about their identity. Now it's a new era here. They don't have to hide anymore, and they have a lot to tell about their lives from under the shadow. We interviewed Nimet Yildiz from Mush, who's trying to embrace his Armenian heritage.
I found out that I'm Armenian when I was 13. We're from the Miro family. Back then we had many questions. Why are we Armenian? Who are the Armenians? Why are we here? And why did the other Armenians leave? Since then, I've started to search for the answers. When I was young, I was thinking about why there was a war here, why so many left and we stayed, and many other questions. I didn't have anything when I was young. When I grew up, some difficulties emerged. For example, when I had an argument with someone, they would refer to me as an Armenian in a bad way. Sometimes people would joke about Armenians as if Armenians are bad and make derogatory comparisons. Our family didn't leave this place. I didn't escape to Armenia, but I was always wondering how Armenians lived here before. However, it turned out that we had very few details because of the circumstances of the past, and there was no information in books. Until now, we've never hidden that we are Armenians. A human can be any nationality, Armenian or any other nationality. It's hard for everyone to accept this. It's like when a young child loses his parents and becomes an orphan. Then someone adopts him and teaches him a new way of life. It's hard for everyone and difficult.
At the end of the interview, he said, "It's not us who killed them. They killed us. They are the ones that should be afraid." Arman showed us the remains of a church, Sırp Sarkis, or Saint Sarkis, now in mere ruins. It's a dirty place where local drug addicts hang out, and that children here use as a public toilet. Recently, someone from the Armenian diaspora promised to give $50 million to rebuild the church. Another ancient church, Sub Mariam, or Saint Mariam, has been turned into a mosque. The crosses taken down, Armenian writing replaced with Islamic writing, or completely removed. Another church, Sırp Gevurk or St. George, faced similar issues and changes to that of Sub Mariam. It was too turned into a mosque, and all of its Christian symbols either stolen or destroyed. The Church of Sırp Hrovanes, or St. John, faced a different destiny. It was turned into a school, but not directly. Instead, brick by brick, the Turks took apart the church, and only when it was completely gone, the school was ready. These ancient examples of Armenian art were taken away and transformed into mosques through blood and fear. Rashid is Armenian and only found this out not so long ago. He's trying to find his relatives through Arman, but he doesn't speak Armenian, and his grandfather was found by the Kurds when he was just 6 months old. His family hid him, so he wouldn't be killed.
Yes, I'm Armenian. We first lived in Sasan, in a village called Hopa. It was once an Armenian village, with only Armenians. That's how locals always knew we were Armenian. They knew where we came from. As far as I know, the Armenian minority in Turkey is about 4 million people. Of course, there are also Armenians that don't even know they are Armenian. Those who mention who they are, and others who hide it. The Turkish society doesn't consider Armenians as a community. They don't accept it. They kick it out of their groups, and therefore many people don't mention their origins. As I said, I'm Armenian. I always knew who I was. Many things have changed in my life. We have lost our past that we weren't even aware of it. Because of how things were here in the past, there weren't any possibilities to search, ask, and find out who we really are. Our questions made us poor and weak. I'll say this: society doesn't accept Armenians. And for example, there are many people who are Armenian, who hide and do not talk about the fact who they are. So they won't have to face the reaction of society, so they won't be thrown out. I have never hidden my true identity. I have always talked about it. Those who accept and love me the way I am. We, our family, have never hidden where we are from. We have never come into any harm, but as I said before, the uneducated part of our society always hunts us. I'll give you an example from my experience. When you have an argument with someone, if a person doesn't take responsibility for their actions, they will straight away refer to you as an Armenian in a bad way. And by doing this, they are trying to separate us from the society. These little difficulties we have to face from time to time. We have always tried to search, and by our own sources, because Armenians and Kurds have always lived here, they lived as brothering nations. It was very good. We were helping each other. However, we are worrying where the political agenda has left us. Our Armenian and Kurdish brotherhood was broken by the policies of that era. We are humans firstly. We have one life, one border, and after that we die. Our world is like that. 2 times you inhale, 2 times you exhale, and then you die. We're always very close to death. People shouldn't harm each other, and definitely not kill each other.
We then went to a village that Armin wanted to show us, a village associated with cruelty and brutality against the Armenian culture and its people. It's a place with an interesting and bloody history, just like the rest of Eastern Anatolia. This village was once the home to a giant church of Sobhavanis, or St. John, and called Karapet. During the Armenian genocide, when locals were killed or kicked out, the Kurds were ordered to smash the church to pieces, so that no sign of anything Armenian was left behind. It happened during the genocide. They destroyed the church and used the bricks, blocks and holy symbols to bolster their houses. Many holy crosses can be found on the building, and ancient Armenian writing can be seen too. One large part of an Armenian stone cross called khachkar, or cross stone, can now be found at a public bathroom. What remained of the church turned into an animal slaughterhouse, as if the people accused of committing this crime not only wanted to destroy Christianity in this nation, but also to humiliate its sacred sites. Local Kurds know that the Armenians used to live here, and don't deny that these lands were once Armenia. They say that a great tragedy happened here, and Armenians all over the world are coming to see their home. Looking at the local women making bread, or lavash, we've noticed something quite incredible. One woman has been putting a symbol of the cross on her bread. This is a process done by Armenians to bless food. We don't know if this woman was Armenian, or maybe her grandparents were, or maybe local people learned from the Armenians how to bake this way. There were other women along with her making the bread. Maybe they all do it with a cross, and they just don't know the meaning, but we specifically noticed her. The saddest thing here is seeing a country that goes back over 5,000 years, having its history destroyed or rewritten. We've seen a local bridge called Murat, or in Armenian Sulu, named after the river of the same name, but called Aratsani in Armenian. The bridge was built from the stones of a destroyed Armenian village of Astishat, built by the Timur in the 14th century. However, the only sign mentions that the Turks built it, and ignores the origins of the materials used in its construction. Armenian history in the region was on the verge of extinction, just as the local people here were 100 years ago. But with the help of Armen, who's very well known by the Turkish government, some things have been saved, and some history is being returned to Armenia. Two monasteries, Serb Arakelots, or the Saint Apostles, which now lay in ruins, were not just destroyed as Armen told us. This particular monastery was still functioning when he was young, but as the years passed by, Muslims here began destroying it brick by brick, until there was almost no sign of it left. The Srpske Satan monastery also faced the same issue. Armen said there was no road here before, meaning Armenian pilgrimages would have taken a 3-hour car journey and 8 hours by foot. That was until this year, when Armen helped build an easier route. Now people can come here and see what's left of the monastery. Armen was our guide, He was with us throughout the whole journey and explained everything to us. He's spending his life helping local Armenians to know their culture, and he learned the culture from the stories of his grandparents, when they were home alone and at night so that no one could hear them.
Local Armenians who were born in the 90s do not greet me. Those who live here, or in another place, or in Diyarbakir say that this man is patriotic. If we greet him, it could hurt us. Now, besides me, they are also friends with my son, Hake. They are his age, or 2 years, or 5 years older than him. They make friends with him. They say, "Uncle, we do not know if our father did something wrong, or our grandfather did something wrong. We are afraid." And now, those who are Armenians are friends with me, and with my child. There is no such day when I don't receive calls 10 times a day, like my grandfather is Armenian, my grandmother is Armenian, etc. And I find people from Armenia, from the USA, I do not know from where. Relatives come to me and give me the names of the missing. I spend days calling or contacting on the internet or speaking on TV. I say this person in this village is missing, or his brother is missing. Where is he? They start to look for him. Then they call my number and say they are here. There are 10 million Armenians here. There are 10 million Armenians in this western Armenia as far as Istanbul. But the Armenian Sea must be returned. There should be the idea. What did Hryar the Hell say? He said Armenians everything can be done only thanks to the idea. I sued the whole of Turkey through the European Council, and now the trial is underway. The Armenian Sea is not just about talking out loud. You need to act. If you act, then you are an Armenian. If not, then it is a lie. About 3 or 4 million people know that they are Armenians. But I know from my search that there are more than 10 million Armenians. Not more than 4 years ago. 4 years ago, the Minister of Culture of the Turkish government said that there are more than 10 million Armenians in here. He says that they are Armenians and they are traitors who are among us. They are traitors. There is freedom in such countries like Russia, the United States, and in France as well as Beirut, Armenia. But there is no freedom here. I was caught and beaten for 24 hours all day long. And now it has been 3 days since my leg hurts. There's probably a problem with my leg now. They forced me to walk on shards of glass. There was salt on one side. On the other side there were shards of glass. They held me for 24 hours. We lost 85% of the territory. 85% of territorial losses are huge. Armenia has 15% of its territory left. It is completely stony ground. There is nothing else. Someone has become Russian, someone has become American, I don't know whom, and someone has become British. Thank goodness I have remained Armenian. I am 54 years old. I have remained Armenian. My children will remain Armenian, and my grandchildren will remain Armenian. I will die, my son will continue, and his children will continue.
Our journey continued. We were on our way to Sassun, another old Armenian warrior city. Here in the Armenian highlands, we were in search of a church with an interesting story. The church was built by the father of Gevorg Chaush, an Armenian national hero, who fought back against the Turks on the bridge of Murad. He was among those who sacrificed everything to hold off the Turks, allowing people to cross the bridge and escape to a safe place. He died at the site, killed under the bridge while tending to a wound. As we said, this church was built by his father to honour him, named the Gevorg Chaush Church. However, the Turks held a grudge and soon locked it up. They didn't destroy it. They took away the cross and removed all the symbols and signs, so that it would never be known as the Church of Gevorg Chaush. Now, locals use it as a shelter for animals and a slaughterhouse. David is a strong man, and he was not afraid to speak the truth. He said that they were killing our grandfathers. Let them kill me, but I will still say that I'm Armenian.
Yes, I'm Armenian, until the end. For a long time I've known that I'm Armenian. Once when we were in our village, I heard my father and my uncle talking in another language. I asked them what language it was, and they started to cry. I asked why. They told me to be quiet and never ask, because I'll get in trouble. When they left the village and went to Istanbul, I learned how to speak Armenian. My children live in Canada, and they also speak Armenian very well. No matter who you talk to, there's always an Armenian nephew that someone has, another with an Armenian grandfather. Especially in cities like Batman or Diyarbakir. Many people talk about their Armenian identity, but others will not admit that they are Armenian. Since I was a child, I knew that I'm Armenian. Even though I was forbidden to talk about it, I was still talking about me being Armenian. I'll be honest, the Turkish people know what we've been through, and because of that they are afraid of us. I'm not afraid. I'm here today to tell the truth. Here in the mountains, I play loud Armenian music so that everyone can hear it. It calms me down. Tears calm me down. The nation of Turkey will never be a friend of ours. There are many good people from them, but bad people do such terrible things that you forget about all those good people. We're here, and I ask all Armenians, don't be a monolinguistic nation. Defend your nation, your lands, your waters, and your history. I want Armenian diaspora to be big and strong. I thank Armenians from Armenia. Ask in Istanbul about us. They will call us mountainous people. They will call us with some words that you shouldn't say. Let them come here and spend at least one day in the mountains of Sassoon. Until my last breath, I'm Armenian.
Locals know that he's Armenian and they hate him for it. They even built a road which literally stops before it reaches his territory. He welcomed us, sang an Armenian song in Kurdish, and we danced. After the interview, he broke down in tears and gave us warm regards as we departed. Our journey continued to the city of Diyarbakir, the ancient city of the Hittites, Armenian ancestors. This city has a very interesting situation, sometimes called the capital of Turkish Kurdistan. However, we found out that nearly half of the population of Diyarbakir is Armenian. Local Armenians live a very secret way of life. Some live like Kurds, some pretend to be Kurds, and others openly say that they are Armenian. Diyarbakir is a big city, where Armenians and Kurds not only live together, they respect each other and cooperate. Arman told us that many of the Armenians here went straight to baptize themselves when they found out they were actually Armenian, even despite living as Kurds or Turks, and had married Kurdish or Turkish women. For some, it meant that they had to divorce and leave their families, or force their partners and families to convert to Christianity. Of course, these changes are done in secret and not announced in public. The problem is the strong image of Islam in these lands, and some argue the large number of uneducated people who create problems for the Armenians, especially if they are Christians. Diyarbakir is the home to the second longest wall in the world, after the Great Wall of China. Built by the Hittites, it was later completed by the Armenian king Tigran during his reign between 95 and 55 BC. However, the wall has been neglected and even disrespected by locals who get drunk and smoke inside it. We interviewed two Armenians from Diyarbakir, Siro and Artin. The Artin family is a very well-known family of Armenians, most of whom converted to Islam.
As I remember, I've always known that I'm Armenian, because we were called the Artin family, and when I was at school we were wondering, what's the Artin family? Who is it and from where? My grandfather told me about it, but he never admitted anything because he was scared. But we already knew that. Since I was 12 years old, my family knew we were Armenian. However, there wasn't so much optimism surrounding it, because we never knew or had anything to do with that fact. If we take Diyarbakir as an example, families here are mixed so much that you wouldn't be able to tell Armenians and Kurds apart. You could say people have lost or forgotten the truth. If DNA tests were done in Diyarbakir today, in my opinion, half the population here will have Armenian blood, from either their mother or their father's side. In Diyarbakir, there are more than 2 million people, even though the official data says that there are 1.3 to 1.5 million people. It's not true, because in the regions that are part of Diyarbakir, there are, if not 1 million, definitely 800 to 900,000 people. I'll tell you this, 2 to 3 years ago, in order for people to find out about their background, the government made a decision. It opened up an archive and anyone could go online and search for their origins, to find out where they were from and who they are. But those who had Armenian ancestors couldn't find out many details because the archive information ended with their grandparents and didn't go any further into the past. It was empty. With that, we didn't find anything. We couldn't see anything. Here, many families openly call themselves Armenian. In Diyarbakir, there are maybe 10 to 15 families. But when I talk to people, with friends, I ask them, and a great majority of them turned out to be Armenians or of Armenian origin. When I first came to Armenia, it was a practical city, but I wanted to know, what were my roots? Where did they go? What happened to them? We know now that our grandfather was Artin Moradian, but where did he go? Where is he? We don't know. We are still looking for him for a long time. We've collected information from Syria and from European countries, but we found no sign of anything. Before addressing this to all Armenians, I would like to send a letter to the government of Armenia. We go there very often. They don't register us because our passports are Turkish. To make a deal, all doors must be closed. I want to address the Armenian government. Please, ease the process of visiting Armenia for Armenians from Turkey. Trade will gain from this. There will be new jobs and people will work. My plea to the government of Armenia, make your business system a little more flexible. Help us to invest more resources.
Siro is from a family that originates from Diyarbakir. He doesn't know much about his heritage because there's no information to be found anywhere.
I was born in the village of Meykuni in Diyarbakir. My mother is from Jernik village in Diyarbakir. I'm Armenian on both my mother and father's side. Therefore, of course, I'm Armenian. As I remember, we were called Armenians by origin, but we didn't know anything more than that. We were clueless. I mean, we knew that we were Armenians, but we didn't know what it was exactly. Actually, we grew up as Kurds. As I said before, because of our lack of information, we lived as Kurds. We lived under the Kurdish movement, under the flag. But with the progress of technology and political situations, I have discovered my true identity. The Armenian gene has one characteristic. An Armenian, when he loves and believes in something, will take care of it in the most beautiful way. We are no longer afraid to be part of the Kurdish movement, because we can openly say that we are Armenians. It is true that we are in a position where we don't know our own culture. We don't even know where to start. When I was between 10 and 15, I started to really discover my Armenian identity. Over the last century, it has been very hard to pass on knowledge in these mixed families. There is an RT family with 650 to 700 family groups. Most of them became Turks or Kurds. They don't truly accept the Armenian background. There are a few factors to that, either religion or the fact that Armenia has been dragged through the mud. What happened 100 years ago, 104 years ago, the Armenian question, it is being mentioned, but nothing has changed in my opinion. We're part of Western Armenia. Let there be a good diaspora. Let there be an Armenian community. We're forgotten in these lands. We're forsaken. We can see that even among Armenians, there are people who see only the material benefit of this question. Let there be a diaspora in Armenia, or of Armenians in general, or those from Istanbul. This topic is essential. The world knows, the Kurds know, the Turks know, of course I'm talking about educated groups. Everyone knows that Armenians are right. In the world press, no matter where, the Armenians are right.
We wanted to see if anything from Armenian history here is still alive and breathing to this day, so we went to Mount Nemrut in Adiyaman to find out. This holy place was once a pantheon of ancient Armenian gods, built by King Antiochus of Comingen. Antiochus came from an Armenian dynasty, Orontid. His mother a Greek princess of the Seleucid Empire, and his father an Armenian king of Comingen. King Antiochus loved his mixed culture and built a temple to the ancient Armenian, Greek and Persian gods. With the same Indo-European backgrounds, these gods could basically be traced back to the same ancestors long ago. He was a king that deeply respected his Armenian Greek background. However, we haven't been able to find any indication of Armenian influence here. Tourist information mentions the Greeks and Persians, but not one word about Armenia. Even the Kingdom of Comingen is described as Greek, despite being recognized as Armenian, with a half-Greek, half-Armenian population. Interestingly, sculptures depicting the gods have had their heads removed. Local guides and other sources of information claim it happened during an earthquake. However, Armen says that's not true, and that it was done on purpose during the Ottoman times, in order to humiliate the culture. On the way to our next stop, Armen pointed out a crevice in the distance and told us that inside the cliff were tens of thousands of Armenian bodies. Once considered a safe place, when the Turks found it they burnt it to the ground. Now it holds the remains of those burned people. Another village we visited is Hunus. It was the home of writer and filmmaker William Sarayan before he moved to the US, when life as an Armenian in Turkey became too difficult. There we have seen giant stone crosses known as khachkars, left behind from the church of Serb Asfasatsin, Saint Mother of God. We were shocked that these khachkars were still standing, but later Armen told us that they are protected by UNESCO. However, they are still being neglected and used for chores, work, and a place to put dirty clothes on. whereas the stones from the church itself were used to build houses, something that was common practice during the genocide. Living under the condition of Turkish rule, many people forgot who they were, and many had to convert to Islam. They may now know about their Armenian ancestry, but they now introduce themselves as Muslims. We then interviewed a man called Sami, who is now a grandfather and a descendant of the Manuk family. It's a very interesting family that welcomed us and gave us food.
My name is Sameh. I'm 67 years old. I'm from the village of Termag. My grandfather's name is Elho, and his father's name is Msti. When I was 14 or 15, I became Muslim. Yes, I'm Armenian, but we are Muslims. When I was 20, I found out that I was Armenian. I didn't know that before, but my father and grandfather are Muslims. My parents didn't run away, they became Muslims. With time, they mixed with others. There were many, but many left. Only 6 houses were left in our village. Van, Istanbul, Diyarbakir, Hiza. We have relatives in these cities. From all of the relatives in this village, only I was left. My father died when he was 25 years old. We had many tourists coming here before. Of course, I've thought about learning the Armenian culture. Father said we have lost many relatives. Because of war, many have left this place. Not even 5% of them came back. They didn't come back to their motherland. Alive or dead, we don't know. 3 to 4 people came back. We were among them. 2 of the others that came here disappeared. We don't know what happened to them. Until this day, we haven't met, and we don't know each other. We didn't learn. We didn't even learn our religion. But our children were educated and became imams. Armenians, Turks or Kurds, there was no distinction. Our family consists of imams, so no one has ever distinguished or threatened us. It is true our blood is Armenian, we didn't forget. Yes, when we grow up and understand that. We didn't tell anyone that we are Armenians and no one told us. We have forgotten our Armenian culture, we didn't think about it anymore. I won't tell. Actually, to be honest, I don't need that. Being Armenian isn't suitable for us. We know that there are many Armenians who come to Istanbul in order to get to know the things.
The next stop for us was a place called Akhtamar, situated in the middle of Lake Van. The name of the island comes from a tragic and romantic legend about a ruler's daughter, Tamar, and her lover. She fell in love with a simple son of a fisherman. Her father was against their marriage and took her to a tower on the island. At night she would go outside with a lantern so the light would show her lover the way to the island from the mainland, and he would take a boat to be with her. When her father found out, he locked her up in the tower, and the next night there was no light to guide her love in the complete darkness that surrounded him. It's believed demons from the lake's deep waters took him, and before he died, he was calling for his lover, Tamar. The legend says that you can still hear his calls at night until this day. We went by boat to take a look for ourselves. It's one of the few things in Turkey still considered to be Armenian. Even the church remains in a relatively stable condition. However, it's suggested that the Armenians thanked the Sultan for letting their scholars have the church here, meaning the Sultan granted them this church because he was kind. But this version could be about to change too. Groups of Azerbaijani and Turkish priests came to Ahtamar and raised their national flags at the religious site. They gave their own version of the church's history, claiming it was built by the Caucasian Albania. Azerbaijan claims this to be their own descendants. It's sad because churches in Istanbul and the Ahtamar Island Church are proof that the Turks can take care of Armenian heritage. But still, they are examples that have been saved or rebuilt thanks to the Armenian diaspora and have become major tourist attractions. Other places and sites have been desecrated and met with a bloody end. Our final destination was Van Castle, built by Armenian ancestors called the Urartu. The majestic castle was constructed using only clay and bird saliva, as many birds used it to nest, making the overall structure strong enough to last for centuries. Again, there is no mention of any Armenian presence in the region, but now there's nothing but a Turkish flag and a mosque. The region of Van is also famous for an ancient breed of cat that once wandered these islands freely. The animal is best known for its unique eye colour, because they are both different. One is usually green while the other is blue or yellow. Also, the cats are deaf. These cats are a local symbol. However, now you are more likely to see them at the zoo. Some still can be found as pets. The saddest part is that these cats are not sold outside of Turkey, and many Armenians try to buy them. For now though, these cats are not allowed to be taken anywhere outside of Turkey. On our way home, Arman showed us one fascinating spot. It was a gate cut into the side of a mountain, called the Door of Meher. Meher is a character from Armenian legends. He is sometimes referred to as Mitra in other versions of the tale. The legend says that he went inside the mountain and shut himself there, waiting for a time when the world would be totally at peace. But if he emerges from the mountain to conflict, Meher will destroy the world with his sword.
Now, according to the official statement, there are about 180,000 to 200,000 Armenians in Turkey. But in reality, there are 10 million. The government keeps them on a leash. I send them to Armenia to be christened there. Right now, there are 20 people who want to be christened. 20 people say, "Take us to Armenia." we want to be christened and become Armenians. They are Armenians. They are Armenians with their soul, blood, and everything, but they say, we want to be christened and become citizens of Armenia. But it is a very complicated thing to bring a whole stack of documents. I don't know what else have to be brought. The Armenian government is wrong. Pashinyan is also wrong. Let there be less fuss. In Mush there was no church. In Dersim there was no church. In Diyarbakir, in Van, in Western Armenia, there was no church where they could be christened. I was 13 years old when I went on my own in March, and I was christened. There are millions like this. You must act. If you don't, then don't have to hang your head down. You don't have to hang your head down in front of this government. I didn't hang my head, so I'm standing on my feet. If you lower your head, they will hit you on the neck. Then you are already becoming like them. I did not. Money is dirt. The nation is important to me. Blood is important to me. Thank goodness I am Armenian. If I have to be born again in this world 1,000,000 times and they ask me what my nationality is, I will say I am Armenian. The government and now the deputy said that there are 10 million Armenians. 4 years ago he said that they are crypto-Armenians. Who are they? They are called Koromek. They are in Dersim, Mush, Vard district, Erzincan, Erzurum, Adiyaman, Urfaimik, Diyarbakir, Lech City. 70% of Lech City are Armenians. In Dersim, there are 70% of Armenians. Everything in this government, in this state, is difficult in relation to our nation. In relation to our nation, the difficulty arises in everything. You address about the road. You say, open the road. They ask, for what? Tourists want to go to Arakalot's monastery. Not only Armenians, but the tourists of the world want to go to the monastery. They ask 1,000,000 questions. They know me. But do you know what the power is? It is unity. To unite the Armenians. To unite the Armenians of the world, at least the ideological Armenians. The main thing is that we need Armenians with an idea. A lack of ideas is a problem. Let the Armenians of the world wake up. We will already know what to do. If someone has Armenian blood, they should not be afraid. I am not afraid in life. I have one soul. I am ready to give my soul for my nation. Our ancient writing, our everything had its origin here. Our living was here. We are local residents. Our seed was here. You can see that my son speaks Armenian being in difficult situations, doesn't he? If in this situation he speaks Armenian, Russia is a free country, and the US is a free country. There are no problems with the Armenians. But when they go to the USA, they say, how are you? Greetings in English. They go to Russia and they say, Privyet. What Privyet? Speak your mother tongue. Speak the language of Mesrop Mashtats. The language of Mesrop Mashtats gave us the vocabulary 1,420 years ago, and we must not forget this.
The Armenian population runs into the millions today, a tall shadow of a past that wasn't meant to survive. They believe that Turkey has now changed, that there are intelligent people, a great number of them. However, the wounds will take time to heal, and mistakes still have to be admitted. History tends to show that Armenians are people that always give. It's a nation that throughout history has shown a will to defy the odds and survive, while never asking for pity. They just want the world to know they exist, and for the truth to be spoken. History also tends to repeat itself, and if we accept reality and face the facts, if we won't ignore it, we will not let this happen again. It's not only about Armenians, but for the world. Someday, if history tells the truth, Armenians will have a chance for redemption.